Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Glad you could join me here today, as always. And it's a beautiful, sunny spring day in St. Louis, Missouri today. Hope it's beautiful wherever you are in the world. And today's topic is going to be a continuation of The Power is Within. I'm reading and commenting on my book, so then we don't have any copyright infringement problems. So we are on location 86 of my book, The Power is Within. Where's it at? Let me see. Oh. Here it is. You can pick it up on Amazon. But I have to revise it because I found a mistake. My editor didn't quite get it right. But he's taking responsibility for it, and he's going to pay to republish it. So we will get it right eventually. Try again. Be persistent. Don't give up. I must say it was a little disappointing, but hey, that's life. That's exactly how it was supposed to happen. It's not a perfect world, and it's not a fair world, but sometimes that works to your advantage. All right, we will continue. But first, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We got a video coming out every day that I know will be of value to you and to me too. Here we go. There are endless stories of people who claimed to have lived and died before. They knew the names of their family members, events that happened to them, and details that they could have known no other way than to have been there when they happened. Strange. Have you heard of those stories? Still more are the stories of those countless many who have been pronounced clinically dead, only to come back to life and tell of the conversations loved ones were having in the hallways while they were gone. My own experience with this came when my parents passed. My father's passing came first and was very normal in every way. I had cared for him at his home for 4 years before his death. That day I came into his room to lay him down for his afternoon nap. He was sitting in his wheelchair just as straight up as could be. That was unusual. Excuse me. By this time of day, he would normally be slumped over, tired and ready for his rest. I called his name and he didn't move. I touched him and he was cold. He was gone. I called my mother and told her that Dad had passed. He had told me about a month before that he was ready to go. He was still in his right mind, but by this time he was unable to do anything except feed himself. He felt a burden on my mother and I. That day he let himself slip away, and that was it. I remember when I went out there that day, he looked the same as he always did, except as I said, he was sitting up straight. He never was sitting up straight when he was usually slumped over and tired, ready to be laid down in the bed because he couldn't lay himself down. My mother's passing, however, was a little less usual. My kids and I visited her every day since my father had passed. After about 4 years on one of my visits, she was doubled over in pain when we walked through the door. By this time, I had known for a while that something was wrong, but she was not a person to ever admit being in pain. She had lost a lot of weight in her last year, and her diet had changed a lot. That evening, she finally admitted she needed help and allowed me to take her to the hospital. The news was bad. An ulcer had turned into cancer, and it was far along. She also had a blockage in her intestines, likely related to the ulcer, and it would need to be operated on, but that would require her to gain strength. I visited her in the hospital every day for about 2 months while they tried to prepare her for the operation. Because of the blockage, they had her on rotation of IV infusions, but even that wasn't having a positive effect the doctors had hoped. One night she had a spell and had to be transferred to intensive care. She thought she would surely die and feared death, but not because of being gone. She didn't want to be put on life support. It was a big fear of hers. When the doctor came out to speak to me, it was clear that she had been crying. Yeah, I never see doctors cry. Something I don't expect from doctors who, in my experience, are usually very stoic. The doctor told me that my mother had called me the daughter she never had. Maybe some guys would look at that as an insult, but I knew what Mom meant. It had touched her deeply. It had touched me too, but I knew that was how my mother was, tough as nails most of the time, but soft as dough when the moment struck her, especially late in her life. She was the kind to either make a deep and personal connection with you or nothing at all. I believe it was the connection that I had with her that led to the strange experience at her death. After 2 months in the hospital and 2 months of her continuing to decline, I asked if she was ready to go home. I had seen it in her eyes, but knew she would never ask. She said yes, and I brought her home to die in comfort. That's hard to say, but it was what she wanted. Neither her or I wanted her to die slowly in a nursing home or quickly in a hospital. I had seen my grandmother go through that. Every time I would visit her, she would ask me to take her home. But it was my grandfather's decision to keep her there. It was difficult to watch her dwindle away in the nursing home. I am sure it was for my grandfather also, but I was in charge of my mother's care and I would not let her go that way. Many people get put in nursing homes and they don't even get visits from their family. They just go there to die. I mean, we're all dying as soon as we're born. Every one of us is getting older, or getting old, as they say. But so many people die before they ever are put in the grave. Live your life fully until it is time to go. You have much more in you to give to people. And when you retire from work, don't retire from life. I don't even think of retiring. Maybe someday I will, but what am I going to retire from? Do I want to retire and come home and sit down and get up and watch the sun come up every day and just watch TV or what? A man has to have a purpose in life until his death. He has to have some kind of purpose, if nothing else, to pass on the wisdom that he has learned in his life. He has a very valuable asset, that is his wisdom, and he can share that with people. We lose so much by putting people in a nursing home and just leaving them there and not allowing them to contribute or giving them the opportunity to contribute to the younger people. There's no way to get wisdom other than through life experience. So you talk to someone who's got 60, 70, 80, 90 years experience of life, they have some definite wisdom that they can pass on. There is no other way you can get wisdom because you have to combine experience with knowledge. Those two combined together create wisdom, or at least that's what I believe. Okay, after we brought my mom home, my brother and his family and myself and my kids took shifts caring for her around the clock until she passed. It was a terribly sad but wonderful experience. I wish all people got to leave life with those that they love rather than people paid to be with them. I wish all people could give their loved ones that. And I was very glad that I was able to do that for both of my parents. Death and life are just parts of this journey. We will only ever get the most out of the journey if we embrace that we will one day die. Not in a morbid way, but just we're all going to pass someday. It's just part of the deal. You will pass on just as everyone before you has. Do what you came here to do. You know what that is, but you're probably afraid of it, or it seems like something that's incredibly impossible that you could never do it. But if that idea keeps popping up over time, again and again, you have the ability to do it. You just must face the fear. Fear stands between you and everything you desire. Okay? If you don't do what that is, then your first job ought to be, if you don't know what that is, your purpose here, then your first job ought to be to discover it. As we continue along in this story, I'll give you some ways to do exactly that. I was there the day my mother embraced death. She had only been home for about a week and had been declining quickly, as we knew she would. The hospice people came and recommended that she be given some morphine and placed on oxygen. I put her mask on her and stepped out onto the porch to read while I let her nap. No sooner had I begun reading than I felt her presence. It was just like a breeze passing by me on the porch, only it had come from the closed door behind me, and in it I felt her say she was leaving. It wasn't a voice, just a presence, more real to me than the book I held in my hands. I don't think we have words that yet really describe what that feels like, only that it isn't one of our 5 physical senses that experiences it. I don't remember what book I had grabbed to read, but I will always remember that feeling. I sat the book down and walked back inside and came to her bedside. She had gone. Though I wept by her side, I felt joy that I had been able to care for her all the way up to her passing, and that she visited me that one last time. We'll stop there. But that was something that was very important to me. Here in the U.S., we have a tendency to put people in what we call nursing homes. In other countries, they don't have that luxury. I don't know if I should call it a luxury. The parents are taken care of by the family, by the children. Here we kind of just put them away, and I find that distressing, sad. Our parents, regardless of how badly we think they raised us, did raise us, if they did, unless you were put in a home. Why shouldn't we take care of them at the end of their days? It was a very difficult thing for me to do because I was not able to work anywhere else, but I managed somehow. I was able to put it in a few hours here and there. In the U.S., it's easier because I was able to get a little help. That was when I was on welfare. That was about 9-10 years ago. I never thought I would ever be on welfare. I didn't have to be. My mom, the family could have taken care of my situation, but I didn't want to burden her, because they had insurance, but the financial burden was still pretty great, although my mom and dad were quite well off. But it's an honor to have taken care of them, to have allowed them the privilege of passing at home. Isn't that what we all want? Wouldn't we rather pass at home with our family and our loved ones in a familiar place than in some sterilized nursing home with people that don't even know us and don't even really care about us, but are just taking care of us because they get paid to do that? So if you're able to do that, I suggest that you take care of your parents when it comes their time. If you can, I realize some of you have jobs that you just can't step away from, but if it's at all possible, because that's something that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. And like I said, it was an honor for me to do that. I have no regrets about it. I had to put my life on hold for about 4 years for my father, and maybe 6 months or 2 to 6 months for my mother. But so what? The inner strength, confidence, or character building, integrity, whatever you want to call it, that I gained from that far surpasses any loss that I may have incurred while doing that, while putting my life on hold. I don't consider it a loss at all, but it was a gain. I don't really know how to explain it, but if you can do that, or whatever you can do for your parents when it comes their time, I suggest you do that. And if you need to make peace with them, if there's something you need to say to them or to get out, please do that, because once they're gone, you can't do it. Okay? That's all we got for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope this has been of value to you. Share it with a friend, and we will continue with this maybe tomorrow, but maybe something else. Maybe I'll surprise you. All right? Have a great day.